Let's get ready to rumble. Okay, I just thought, because I was like bored out of my skull and it's like 2 a.m. Eastern. I was watching some old school matches and just thinking that this sport now looks ridiculous. And not to sound sexist, I mean, I guess guys get off on watching women wrestle, but I just think that I liked it better then. Now, not so much. I mean, then $20 would get you in, pay for your parking, get you some popcorn, a hot dog, a soda, and a good seat. Now, I don't know, they wrestle all over the place. It's just very different, but I never like to... I'm not one to forget where I come from, let alone where pop culture and things of that nature fall from. Now, these three here at the bottom, they were out there, showboats. And then you had the good guys and the heel, and nobody played a heel better than Flair. I have some stories I will share with you there. Sting, I always thought, was really kind of cool. The name, the paint, and the hair. The hair reminded me of Kid and Play, and that dude was black. And of course, Flair, and what I wouldn't do to have one of his robes with the feathers and the sequins. I'm like, you probably couldn't pull that look off today, but I sure hell could. I would wear one of them. There's one that's missing. I watch Vice. I know a lot of people think Vice is based, but they're not. To me, anyway, because, you got to be old enough to remember when. So when they go back in history and they talk to the OGs of wrestling, I'm like, yep, it's true. But Flair does have a missing robe, and nobody's giving it up, and I can't say that I blame them. Okay, next. Oh, this still my beating heart, and my ovaries are screaming. Oh, Lord. Okay, first of all, this is Kevin Nash. He could break up my happy home now, as old as we both are. I remember when he come into the scene, because, back in the day, you could have a, you could get a pay-per-view for $20. And it would play for about an hour, hour and a half. My kids went nuts. They behaved real good all week long because they knew Mama wasn't going to buy that pay-per-view unless you behaved. And it was a good way to keep them in line. Luckily, I raised beautiful boys. But when he hit the scene, Mr. Nash, whew, Lord, he was called Big Daddy, and I'm like, you could slap my ass and call me daddy all day long. I can't believe I'm saying this in the universe. But luckily, there's only like 2.1 people that look at my stuff, so maybe this will entertain someone. Because somebody has to tell stories of then, because I think YouTube is truly full of kids and 30-year-olds. And, God forbid you be over 30 and be called old. Because, we have all these generations of millennials, Gen X, Y, Z, ABC. Who do you think raised them? Make fun of the boomers if you want. We raised all you behind us. So don't forget where you come from. Stay humble. Because your mom and daddy might be old, but they got stories. And then, anyway, back to, I just can't quit staring at this Scarlet Beauty here. He could body slam my ass any day. And then he reinvented to Big Sexy. And I'm like, Big Sexy Daddy, I'm all for it. All right, who we got next? Oh, this was a meme that when I was gathering stuff up for this little pitiful video, I thought this was so true. And that probably really did happen. What we got next? Ah, Ricky Boom Boom Steamboat. Um, I got to give this guy credit. He was one of the good guys. Always won. Um, he was probably in the best shape and non-steroidal out of all of them. Now, I don't know about, that stuff if it was around back then. It's pretty obvious now that, the rumor mill says that they're all doing it. I know dudes that's pumped iron and they're built, but they're not cut like these bodybuilders, but, there's that. All I know is when I went to school, there was a girlfriend of mine, and she, we were kind of poor, or ghetto, or we just did what we did as kids in the 70s, if you will. We would take grocery bags, and this was before plastic. So we would take, and write on our jeans and write on our school book covers, or have posters of them on our walls. And my friend girl, she had pictures of this dude everywhere. She would pull one out of her pocket. She would take, because back then they had wrestling magazines, or should I say, since I'm Southern, Rassling magazines. She would take and cut them out and tape them all over her book covers. And every time I think of him, I remember her. But yeah, he was one of the good ones, and you could tell he really worked on his body, and his craft was quite good. Apparently somebody popped him in the eye, though, but definitely a legend. Wahoo! McDaniel. One of the few and rare older legends, Native American, definitely played the part. I used to enjoy when he would come into the stage and he would walk to it. He would have this is just one of many. He had beautiful headdresses, and he was a crowd pleaser. He wasn't a heel, but he didn't take no shit. And when he made a threat, when he would go to match, he would make good on it. And I love the boots. They're moccasins. I would like to have those like right now. Some of these, I don't even know if they're still alive, but who's next? Oh, the one OG that didn't take no shit. And when he said he was going to whoop your ass, and they had to bleep it out, because when Ted Turner was running this, broadcast television was 3 minutes behind. So whenever he said, I'm going to whoop your ass got on the air, and whatever affiliate station it was on, they kind of got in trouble. The same thing happened when Harry Hyde was pissed off that somebody had spun out another car driver, and the reporter was just doing their job, and they're like, tell us how you feel about this. Maybe after the race. And he's like, I ain't going to be here. Yeah, blah, blah, blah. And he cussed on the air. Now they have a deficit in time. But back to Blackjack Mulligan, this guy here, he could whoop some Cyril ass. It might have been fake and played, but he had moves like Jagger. I'm not kidding. And while, as we saw over here with Blackjack, who wore the smart shoes, Blackjack did not give a damn. He fought in cowboy boots every time. Imagine the kidney kicks these things gave. He didn't take no mess, so props to Blackjack Mulligan. Ha! My man! The star of my WWE, WWF, WCW, WXYZ, I don't know. Because I think the old school wrestling was the best. And nobody played the heel as good as Flair. Now, I've got some stories. I'm going to put them out there. I had a uncle, and one of my ex-husbands had clubs in Charlotte. And what a lot of people don't know now, because wrestling has come a long, long way. I mean, they were doing this in the 50s, but Flair would come to those clubs. And I can remember as a kid hearing my uncle, and then later on my ex told me stories, and they both told the same story. Anytime, because it was predominantly in the Southeast. Anytime these guys were not taking halcyon and drinking and flying planes, that came in the 80s. Prior to that, they were on buses or they were in limos. We got behind one night coming home from Charlotte at the old Coliseum, the one that was round in Charlotte, North Carolina, because I'm a Carolina girl. Which one, I won't say, but doesn't matter. We're Carolina. But anyway, we got behind Sergeant Slaughter in his limo, and I was driving, and I was headed home, and they was headed down towards Atlanta, and I did everything I could. I hit my bright lights, I got up on their tail lights, and they finally got away, because my husband, he was flipped out. He wanted to partake, and I was the only one that would not, so I was the only one fit to drive, and he was like, "You're going to get our asses beat." I'm like, so they're going to pull the limo over, build a ring, and whoop my ass because I'm a fangirl? Because Sergeant Slaughter was kind of cool. He was the coolest asshole in wrestling. But anyway, back to Flair. Flair, I never will forget it. I saved it, but it was on a Western Digital hard drive that took a shit on me. I had copied a blog of a man who evidently was scorned because Rick came into the club and literally removed his old lady from his arm. Of course, they got in a big old fight, but she left with Rick. And that was the problem with Rick, is because all the women was crazy about him. And when I had my blonde hair, they used to tease me, because when we were kids, this is what we were into. They would call me baby doll because he had a little, like Elizabeth. Who was it? The Macho Man had Elizabeth, but way, way back, probably before Crockett, and I can't remember that other guy's dude, he had a blonde, and he called her baby doll. So at school, that's what they called me. And then later in life, I adopted doll baby, and then my husband calls me baby girl. I'm like, you realize I'm too old to be called baby girl, but that's his pet name, and I think it's adorable, but not near as adorable as if even right now, if Ric Flair knocked on the door and said, "What's up, baby girl?" I'll be like, "I love you." Woo! Okay, who's next? Oh, yeah! Let's snap into it. This is hard. A Slim Jim, brother. That was my best impression of the Macho Man. My kids absolutely, positively loved this guy. I mean, he was all American, and if you, not everybody likes it on YouTube, but Vice has a behind the rings, or they cover wrestling, and I'm trying not to sound too southern, but they cover wrestling and the roots of it, and of course, Jim Crockett back in the day was kind of, meek and tolerable. When I watch him now talk about it then, I'm like, where was that fever back then? Because now he sounds a little full of himself because he never got his ass whooped. Or, he was the one that told the stories about how they would get, in the 80s, when this reached out into the 80s, they were on airplanes hopping back and forth. Ric Flair was in a real bad airplane crash. If you know your wrestling, depending on where you're from, they would drink copious amounts of alcohol and take Halcyon, which is what I take. It's a sleeping pill. So, it was a shame to see the Macho Man go bye-bye. But, you know, maybe he's entertaining angels. I know he was fun to watch. I'll say that. And my kids adored him. And this guy, Andre the Giant. Truly, he had a giant's heart because off and out of the ring, you know, he had that accent and he would always talk big and bad. And I don't really think anybody whooped his ass in memory. I'm sorry, but you know, I think the acid I took in 78 just put a brain fart in my head for life. But somebody beat him, and I should have done my homework, but I'm just doing a bullshit video. But somebody beat him, and it was unbelievable. I can't remember who. But he was truly a giant, and he was a joy to watch. Yes. Now this guy here, again, he was very kid-friendly. When it would come on television, not the pay-per-views, but when wrestling was on TBS, back when Ted Turner had his paws in it, it seemed like all the kids really took to the Ultimate Warrior. I mean, my God, look at those nips. They look like it could cut glass. Are you serious? A very colorful, very loved, very much loved wrestler, and I think he's R.I.P., but he was a crowd pleaser. All right, who's next? Oh, my goodness. Now, I was a young little spring chicken back then, but there was nobody. I mean, just looking at this now, I'm like, oh, you got them buttonfly britches on. Oh, I'm telling you, there is nothing hotter or more Adonis type than long hair on men. I don't know why they want to shave their heads now, but, you know, hair is hair. So I can't say much about him except I just remember him. I don't think he stuck around. I didn't do my homework. I'm just basically, you know, talking about the sweethearts of wrestling and how good and organic it used to be compared to now. It's just like some kind of, I don't know. I've got a friend. He's a YouTuber. He lives down in Somerville. You may or may not know of him. It's Kid Behind the Camera. He's friends with Paul Heyman, and he gets the best seats and gets to bring the chairs home, and he does work for him. Paul Heyman knows who Michael Green is. Don't know if any of y'all are familiar with him. He's a Southern YouTuber. He had the Angry Grandpa series. And now, well, he's just grasping. But I know his brother too, and that was a whole different story. But I'm getting way off subject. So this guy has my ovaries screaming when they were just little tiny marbles. Well, I guess that's it. Let's take one last look. Legends, entertainers. Woo! Have to say it every time I seen him. Always wore black because bad guys wear black. And he played the best bad guy ever. Loved me some Wahoo. He was a happy medium. Ricky was one of the good guys. And I don't know who that is standing on their head. If you know, let me know. For the 2.1 people that may or may not possibly see this. Oh, Lord, I hope to God I dream about him tonight. And, well, that was me and the boys in my time back in the day when wrestling was wrestling, when men were men, and the women were outside the ring or they were arm candy. Can't say that I really care much about women wrestling. I think guys like it just because it's hot and lesbo-ish. Don't mean to sound sexist or anything, but it's like I want to see big men that just pow. You know, I don't watch it now. I think it's stupid. I really do. Sorry if you don't like it. It's my opinion, my channel. Like most people say, if you don't like what I say, don't watch. And that's probably not going to be a problem because I don't have that many people. You know, I've been on this platform for so long that I can remember when there was just like maybe a couple hundred videos. And, you know, that's where I started making some of the big names now I know because I was there when they started. Early YouTube, you could actually email through the app. And one of my best friends, very best friends, Steve Cash, 83, that done the Talking Cat series. He was a close friend, and he suffered depression horribly, and he killed himself. So, you know, I always try to be kind when I'm on this platform. You know, I see so much hate and ignorance. It almost makes me just like, how old are you? Are you okay? Who pissed in your cornflakes? You keyboard warriors? The trolls? Which I think the only time trolls worked out is with King Cobra. Because if it weren't for the trolls, he would still be some little creepy dude in a creepy looking apartment that looks like it has more than chair bugs. Hi, guy. But looks like he has roaches inside and out. So maybe that's what he's feeding Puff. Who knows? Okay, this is getting out there, so it's time for me, because as Southerners, we are a friendly bunch and we will talk your ears off. But I wanted to make a video because that's what we do at 2 in the morning. So I'm out. Peace, love, and granola.